Okay, so as far as I'm aware now, we should be live. So if you could just let me know in the comments below if I'm live and you can see me and you can hear me and everything looks and sounds okay. So let me know if you wouldn't mind in those comments. But apart from that, let me just quickly ask, first of all, how is everybody? Have you had a good week already? Or has it been one of those weeks where you've been stressing out because of obviously the release of something like Elementor 3.0 and with the 5.5 update for WordPress? Let me know in those comment section and we can discuss that as we go along. Excellent. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for letting me know that everything is looking and sounding okay. You're going to have to bear with me because where I shoot my live streams, there's a big bay window in front of me. And in the UK today, it's been absolutely chucking it down for pretty much the entire day until an hour before I decide to start doing a live stream. And then the sun comes out, which means it's in and out of the clouds every 5 minutes, and the light is going to change all the time. So if it does get a little bit overexposed, please bear with me. Hopefully everything else will still be all A-okay. Okay, so who do we have with us today then? So we have Carl, my PR agent. Thank you very much for popping in, good man. And we've got Paul Whittle. Good evening to you, sir. And we've got Patrick Killian. Good to see you here again. David Merrick. And again, good to see you here too. Gerald, Javier. I hope I'm pronouncing everyone's names okay because I'm terrible for pronouncing names badly. So please do bear with me if I make a complete and utter picture of your name. I do apologize right now. Okay, so we have Pietro. Good evening. Edvaldo. That's a hard one to say. Well, it's great to see so many of you coming back. Hopefully you caught the first live stream 2 weeks ago. If not, then welcome to the live stream. This is going to be something that currently I'm aiming to do every 2 weeks. So we can kind of talk about what's happening in the web design, the WordPress, the Elementor kind of community. We can talk about things about freelancing, all those kinds of good things. So things hopefully you'll find interesting and things we can sort of have a two-way conversation on, because the whole point of this is it's all about you interacting with me and me interacting with you, and we have a conversation one-to-one live on YouTube. Okay, so hi to everybody. Bangladesh, again, really cool to see you. Rome, we've got Mexico. Well, what can I say? We are a globe-trotting channel, and it's great to see everybody here. So thank you very much for joining me, and hopefully I'll have a few more as we go along. As always, pop your questions into that sort of live chat area. If I can, and I see them, I'll try my best to answer them as we go through this live stream. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to sort of talk about today. The previous live stream was all about the up-and-coming Elementor 3.0, the release, the beta, all those kinds of things. Well, if you are an Elementor user, and I'm assuming probably a lot of you are Elementor users, you can't help but notice there's been quite a lot of hoo-ha about that latest release, the problems that people have had with it, and all those kinds of things. So today, I want to go over a couple of points. I want to just cover a few bases there, talk about some things, and if we have the time later on in the live stream, there's a couple of other things that I'd like to sort of talk about, which are more to do with your designs, with freelancing, and all those kinds of really useful things to help you get better at building landing pages, websites, designs, all those kinds of cool things. So hopefully you'll find that interesting and stick with me as we go through the live stream. Before we do start, though, let's just take a look at some of the people that have joined in, take a look at some of the places you're coming from, and just do a little bit of a welcome, and then we'll crack on with the first point I want to raise once we get a few more people into the live stream. So who do we have then? So we've got from Barcelona, Vladimir Kurian, I hope. If it's your first time here, hopefully you'll enjoy it, stick around, and you'll come back every 2 weeks to join into the live stream and become part of the WP crew over on YouTube Live. And we've got Samrat, hello. We've got Wouter van Meiren. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm probably murdering your name, so I do apologize. But my German, I'm assuming German, is terrible. And who do we have? We've got Femi from Nigeria. Wow, we definitely are globetrotting today. Parisa from Iran. We've got Vladimir Kurian from Slovakia. Calgary, Canada. Pietro, good to see you here. From Italy. Okay. We've got South Africa. Yassian, good to see you here. Another regular over on the WP Tuts Facebook group and also on the YouTube channel. So great to see so many people that I actually know names and it's great to sort of get you interacting with these live streams. This week, though, I do have a drink, because if you remember the last one, by the time I got about halfway through it, let's just say I was a little hoarse. Okay, so we'll just say, yes, we'll show that. Okay, so what I want to do, first of all, like I say, is just quickly go over a couple of things that I think are really useful with the latest version of Elementor that's just been released. So please bear with me as we go through this. But the first thing I want to sort of talk about is Elementor 3.0 is supposed to be faster and lighter. Now, I run some tests on this today, and let's just say I wasn't so impressed as I thought I was going to be. If you'd like me to run some benchmarking tests on two identical designs, I've already done this on a video that will be going up either today or over the next couple of days, where I benchmarked identical designs on identical servers. The only difference between the two of them is one is using Elementor 2.x, free and pro, and the other one is using the latest versions of Elementor 3 and Elementor Free 3.02, I believe, at the time of going live. So if you want to, all those things are still set up, so I'm happy to share my screen and talk about those if that's something you'd like to see. But let's just say that I was less than impressed that as what I thought was going to be quite a decent, noticeable difference between Elementor 3.0 and Elementor 2.x. X because we've got so many different variations, different versions, and so on. So would you like me to do a quick screen share where I show you some sort of benchmarks for those two different sites? Hopefully, I've still got the links to those sites available to me. But Paul, yeah, Carl, anyone else would find this information useful? Let me know, and we can take a look at that. Okay, so we've got a couple of yeses. Well, quite a few yeses, to be honest. Okay, so if you bear with me as I just jabber on a little bit, I'll take a look to see if I can find the actual sites that I'm talking about. Actually, if I go over to GT metrics, I believe they should still be inside there from where I did my bench tests earlier on, if I'm not mistaken. So please do bear with me as we go through this. I didn't actually fully plan on doing this. Okay, so let me just switch over to my screen and let me just run the tests now where, like I say, these are identical sites. So let me just open up one of the sites so I can show you exactly what the site looks like. What I was kind of aiming to do here was not so much make an amazing looking site, but more to sort of make a site that has some basic information in there using sort of templates and so on, header and footer templates, some animations, graphics, you know, all the kinds of things you'd expect to see in a typical site, and then benchmark the two of those to get a comparison. Because my thinking was, and please correct me if my thinking is a little askew here, is that even if the differences were small, as the site gets bigger and the code increases, then it should technically have a bigger gap between them, if you know what I'm saying. But let me just show you the GT metrics test. So let's just test this one again. So this is the Elementor 3.0 site. So we'll analyze that live. Now this is going through local to me. So I'm based in the UK. This is using GT metrics over to a UK based server. All those kinds of things are UK based. So it should give me the most realistic results based upon what we're doing. So you can see we're getting a total page size of about 730 kilobytes, which isn't too bad at all. It's not too shoddy at all. So let me just go into another GT metrics and we'll test the other version of this, which is the Elementor 2.x version. And let me just drop that into there and we'll run that test on there. So like I say, the first one we're dealing with gives us about 730K file size with 45 requests. The load time, there's no point again to sort of hang up on the load time when you're using GT metrics, because there's so many variables that come into play there. And obviously you could tweak and you'd refine and you'd do all those kind of things. I'm only really interested in the total page size and the requests that are being used, because the only difference between these two pages that are created, the two sites, and everything that's included is the version of Elementor. So the images, everything are all exactly the same. So we come over now, you can see that the Elementor 2.0 or 2.x, as you can see from the URL, gives us a smaller file size. Like I said, I'm not going to worry too much about the fully loaded time. And also the requests are fewer. So this is kind of going against what I was expecting when it came to, working with the updated version of Elementor. I mean, is this something that you kind of find surprising yourselves? Would you have kind of considered it to be a bigger difference, but in favor of 3.0 with these code being reduced, all that kind of thing? To me, it was kind of surprising. So the only thing I can kind of take away from it is either the changes they've made are not as significant as we would have maybe thought, or there's still some issues going on with the fact that this is still having problems with it being the early release of 3.0x. But what are your thoughts? I mean, now you've seen, like I say, there's not a massive difference. I mean, we're talking about the difference of, 20-something kilobytes? But obviously, as your page scales up in size, then that is going to increase and could increase quite considerably. So it's not really what I was thinking it would be. So I'm a little bit, A, confused with that, and B, a little disappointed in it too. But, have anybody else done some tests on this? I know there's a lady over on my Facebook group that she did the test, and I think her findings were very similar to mine. That, it's not what you'd expect. Anyway, let me just jump over the comments and see what you guys have, sort of what you think of it and so on. Is this WordPress 5.5? Yep, absolutely. The only thing that is different between these two copies of the site is the Elementor version. They're on exactly the same SiteGround server. They are just literally on subdomains of the main domain. They are none of them are using any kind of optimization. They are literally just a vanilla install of only WordPress, the Hello theme, Elementor 2 and 3, and Elementor Pro 2 and 3. None of these were updates. They were clean installs of every single thing. So like I say, the only thing that I can take away from it is the fact that it's not as optimized yet as it hopefully will become as 3.0 matures and becomes 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3, and so on and so forth. But like I say, it's a bit of a weird one for me. It wasn't what I was expecting. Am I out of focus? Or is the screen out of focus? Because I think Bashiva Diane Shen is saying, is it out of focus? Is it only for me? So can anyone else let me know if this is not in focus, any problems like that? And I'll take a look at correcting things. Okay, so what have we got? Gerald, not a good surprise. Absolutely not exactly what I was expecting in the slightest. A little disappointing, if I'm honest. So, okay, so however, considering all the new functions, not that much difference. I think this is the thing that is a little frustrating. If they bring in new features and things like that on board and streamline the code, but we're ultimately getting a heavier site, each page is going to be heavier and therefore potentially slower. I still do think that Elementor needs to stop pushing out so many new features and concentrate on the core and get that to where people want it to be. All these bells and whistles are great, but I would be amazed if 95% of anyone that's using it to build websites is coming close to anywhere more than maybe 25, 30%. I would like to see, like you see with a lot of plugins, where you can switch off the features that you just simply don't want to use, and that pulls out the extra, JavaScript libraries, CSS, all those kinds of things that are controlling and have an impact upon those widgets, that all that gets taken out. So for me, I would like to see something like that to give us more control over what we do and don't use as part of a site. Anyway, let's just stay and take a look at some more questions and comments. Sorry. All my global settings are ruined in the new version. I can't roll back to previous version, so it's not good. We're going to come on to some of that a little later. Is my test on Cloudways? No, this is on SiteGround. So this is using the SiteGround. It's a brand new hosting plan, so I'm assuming it's over on the Google servers. So we should be getting, pretty good. It is pretty fast. So, but it's not on Cloudways. It's on SiteGround. Pietro. Oh, sorry, my mistake. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so I'm in focus. So unfortunately, you are going to have to look at me in full HD. I do apologize. Okay. It's okay. So what's your take on the big problems everyone is having? Do you think this is okay? I don't think it's okay. I think it's inevitable. I want to come on to what I think of people's findings in maybe the next section or the section after that. No, I don't think it is fully acceptable, but I think when you have a tool that is as comprehensive and complex as Elementor, with an open API, with so many plugins, with so many themes all integrating into it, you're going to have problems. There's no two ways about it. The more complex, the more feature-rich you make something, the more integrations you have with it, the more scope for issues. And the problem is, and I've said this for quite some time, is beta testing is great. But if we say there are 4 million active users using Elementor Free and Elementor Pro, how many of those will actually beta test something? I would probably say it's more than likely something like 0.1%. And of those, how many will test it more than just install it, have a little play about and go, that's cool, I like the new features, and nothing more? So in other words, not fully beta testing it. Again, probably even smaller subsection. So the only when you actually release a product like Elementor into the wild, and you have upwards of a couple of million people installing those updates without dealing with any kind of backup, without dealing with staging sites or any of those kinds of things, inevitably there's going to be big problems. It's just the way that it is, especially when they're changing the code, the core code that makes up the page layouts. It's going to have problems. There's just no two ways about it. I don't think you can get out of that. Unfortunately, what it means is that early adopters, people that have installed this, become beta testers involuntarily, but you do become a beta tester. So I think it's one of those things that, the more you kind of use a tool like WordPress, a tool like Elementor, the more you become a little bit jaded to the fact that you are going to be a beta tester if you adopt it right at the beginning. And it's why I would generally recommend, and I've said this in different posts and comments and videos and things, always wait for 3.02, 3.03, 3.04, even 3.1 on really important production sites. Because by the time those interim patches have been released, those interim versions, lots and lots of people are going to come back with feedback. Lots of people are going to find problems. They're going to get a chance to fix those problems, which means that there's less of a chance that you will encounter a problem when you update it. But if you go right in, right at the beginning, you are just asking for huge amounts of trouble. So that would be my take on it. So Fajay, I hope that answers your question. So what else do we have? Carl, 3.0 is the framework along with bug fixes from previous versions, some bugs not at all. I'm sure we'll have a couple of features between now and 3.8. Yeah, you're probably right. Okay. So what else do we have? Rich, is it safe to stay on 2.9 until the bugs are sorted? I had to roll back after PHP error. Yeah, right now I would say you'd be crazy to jump off 2.9 unless it's a clean install. I've just done a video tutorial that's going to be released in a couple of days' time, which is a full design tutorial showing you how I would work with a client. And a big part of that was using Elementor 3.0 Pro and Free to create the whole design process. So global styles, global fonts, theme styles, all those kinds of things. And other than where you sort of save a theme style or you update something like the global fonts and it doesn't necessarily update and refresh in real time on the page, I had no problems whatsoever. So I would say if it's a new site and you don't have to use things like Jet Engine, plugins that haven't necessarily had a lot of time to get themselves all working with these new features that are sort of rolling out, these new updates that are rolling out daily at the moment, I would say stay with 2.9 if you can. But if it's a new project and you don't mind doing a little bit of testing to make sure things work okay, I would jump into 3 now, because what you're going to have is if you go from 2.9 to 3, you are potentially, you're having code changes to the underlying code that's going on in there, not just feature changes, and that could have a knock-on effect to your design. Lots of people over on the Facebook group for Elementor, lots of those have said how their designs have been messed up and so on. A big part of that's going to be because of the code-based changes that are being rolled out between 2.9x or 2.10x, whatever it is currently, and 3.0. So that would be my advice. If it's a production site and I'm running now, stay as you are. If it's a new site you're going to work on, test it out with the plugins you want to use, but make backups regularly before you do any sort of major changes and updates in it. I hope that helps. I hope that kind of throws a little bit of light onto what we're talking about today. Okay. Is there much difference in the code generated with Elementor when compared to 2x, as in there any reduction in divs, etc.? I haven't looked into the code too much because I think most users are not even going to delve into the code. They're just going to get, most people that are going to be using something like Elementor are going to be visual-based designers. They're not too bothered by the code. If you were, you probably wouldn't use a tool like Elementor or any kind of page builder because of the excessive code they generate. The biggest thing they're doing is just they've changed the DOM model and they've streamlined some of the div tags and some of the different tags that are being used to shorten them down to effectively cut back on the amount of code that's generated, not specifically from the amount of code that's used to create the page design, but more the naming conventions to cut down the overall file size of the code that's being generated. That's my understanding anyway at this point. I haven't really looked too deeply into it because it's a bit of a rabbit hole, to be honest, and you can just go down and down and down and down looking into all these kinds of things. So I hope that kind of answers your questions a little bit there. A couple more new people come in. Pinto TV, good evening, sir. Good to see you here. We've got Kay. Good evening, Kay. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. For anybody that doesn't know Kay Senior, do a search on YouTube. Check his channel out. Subscribe to it because he's got some great content and he's all around genuinely nice human being. So check his channel out. Okay, so let's just take a look at the next thing that I want to cover. So bear with me. I'm going to just change my screens a second and we're going to go over to the next one there, and I'm going to just cut over to this. So the next thing we want to talk about is updating issues. We've kind of covered a lot of this already, but what's your experience? Have you updated to 3.0? What have you experienced when doing that? Did you unfortunately do it on a live production site, or did you keep it really simple and stay on a staging site just to make sure that you didn't have any problems starting out? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the live chat. Have you updated? Are you going to update? And did you experience any problems if you did update? Because I just like to know what your experience has been with it. For me, like I say, I've tested it out on a test site, creating a new site, and I had no real problems whatsoever. But I haven't looked at updating this on any live sites yet. And to be honest, even though 3.02 came out yesterday or today, I still wouldn't update it yet at all. But what have you had? What experience have you had? Let's have a little look. What do we have inside here? Let's have a little look at the questions. And like I say, I want to jump back and forth between the live chat and talking to you about the points that I want to raise, because I think that's the more interesting way of doing things, where we can kind of have that conversation. So I can take a look at what you're feeding back to me and try to answer what I can and just interact with what's going on. So keep those comments and questions coming throughout the live stream. Okay, so we have Western Mass Junction. I haven't had any issues since DC3 issued a patch. Also have ACF front end, custom skin, and SF Pro installed without any issues aside from lots of templates. It's a pretty simple site though. Well, I'm glad to hear you've actually tested it out. You haven't experienced any issues. And it's also good to know that Dynamic Content for Elementor, or DC3, has released a patch. I haven't looked into that yet myself, so I'm assuming this is the Elementor 3.0x patch to make sure that everything works flawlessly with that. If anyone else uses DC3 and you've updated, let me know. Tell me what your experience has been. Has everything worked out okay? Have you found any bugs? Everything working? Everything just caused an absolute mess? Let me know. Okay. Carl Garside, awesome channel at K Senior and welcome to the stream. I agree. Good man. Let's have a little look. Paul Whittle. I updated on one of my sites, which was almost finished, broke the CSS and it seemed on a page, went into the template, made a small edit in order to be able to save it. Once again, it fixed. Okay, cool. Good to know that there are still fixes. You're finding ways around these problems that you are encountering. And hopefully, I mean, most people are gonna find that the updates now that you will make, where 3.02 has been rolled out, that ultimately is going to make the whole process a little easier. Excuse me, I need a drink. And if anybody else has got a beer, raise a drink. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, so Gerald Hedgeman. Biggest thing I noticed was styling issues. Link colors changed. I was using central color palette, and it seems to no longer be compatible for obvious reasons. Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest changes and things that I've noticed where I was beta testing. There was lots of weird little glitches and issues when it came to global colors, global fonts, then theme styles and linking them all together. But most of those, when I've tested it out now on a clean site, for the video I've just been working on the last day or so, I didn't see any of those issues. Everything seemed to work quite nicely. You know, all the names were staying where they were. The colors were updating. If you're making changes to the color on a global level that you've used throughout your design, all those things seem to be working perfectly fine as well. So on that side of things, they seem to have ironed out a lot of bugs that were there in the beta version. So I'm really glad to see that. That's always a good thing. But yeah, I can see why this would make a change, because, you know, when you're moving over from the way it was being done in 2.x to the way it's being done now in 3, there are some quite significant changes to that sort of global styling, theme styles, and those kinds of things. So I think it's inevitable that you are going to have some styling issues flowing down through your site, especially more comprehensive sites that may have taken advantage of those default colors, default fonts, and so on prior to it transitioning over to the way it's being dealt with right now. So if that's all you've got to deal with, that's not too bad. Okay, so Jack Daniels, good man, Paul. Get that down, you sir. Hope it's with ice and not with something like Coke. Okay, so DC3 responded quickly to a support request and issued a patch within a few hours. This is even Greg from the Facebook group. Oh, sorry, Evan Greg. Good evening to you, Evan. Great to see you here. Okay, let's have a little look. Next thing I want to cover. So let me just quickly switch my screens again. And, okay, this is a really important one. And we don't like to sort of say when the horse is bolted, we're shutting the gate and all that kind of stuff. But the importance of backups and staging. Now, if you are going to update at any point to a new major revision of any software, any plugin, any theme, and when I say major, it doesn't even have to be a major revision. To be honest, if it's in a really important site, at least have a backup before you make any changes whatsoever. But make sure that you do have a backup or staging so you can test things out without having any real impact upon the live site when you test things out, because there's nothing worse than having a really important site, making an update, testing it out, and everything just falls apart. Even something as simple as the style sheet not loading in correctly can have a massive impact filtering down through your entire design that can make everything fall to pieces. So if you are going to update at any point, always please make sure you've got a backup in place, that you've got a staging site if it's a big update and you want to test it without taking your site offline for any reason whatsoever. Now, excuse me, I know in the last live stream, people asked me to take a look at creating a staging site tutorial, and that is on the cards for a future tutorial. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll be putting that together to show you exactly how you can do this kind of thing. But I have already shown you how to do things like with WP Vivid Backup Pro and also with WP Reset, how you can do things like take a backup, automated backups when you update a plugin. So if something goes wrong, you can quickly roll it back to the previous version of the plugin. Check that video. Just do a search for, I think it's my backup, or just do a search for backups on the YouTube channel. And there's a couple of videos on there that'll show you how to do all these kinds of things. So if you are new to this and you are thinking of updating, or you've updated and you've come across a problem and you want to find the best way of working, check that out, please, because that will save you so much time and headache. Take it from someone that's done updates in the past that have caused absolute mayhem, and then I've stressed and pulled my hair out just trying to get the site back up online. Not such a problem when it's your site, where it's a client site and they're paying you money and they're losing money. You don't want that phone call. You never want that phone call. Okay, so let's jump back and take a look now at some more of these questions and comments in the live chat. Okay, what do we have? Yes, Carl, stage, update, test, deploy live. Absolutely. Okay, this is the safest method to test updates. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, auto update on WordPress 5.5. Many troubles for me. I knew. Yeah. Oh. Okay, so let me just ask everybody a question. Is everybody using WordPress 5.5? If you are using WordPress 5.5, how many of you have disabled automatic backups? Sorry, not automatic backups, automatic updates. What a lovely idea. And in a perfect world, if you are Wix or Squarespace or even Webflow, updates, roll those out to that platform, because that platform doesn't change and they know what they're doing. WordPress, totally different beast. Now, I have recorded a tutorial on how to globally disable automatic updates. Which camp are you in? Are you in the, I like to have the automatic updates, or please God, no, never automatically update my WordPress? Again, let me know in that live chat. But for me, I would disable that every single time, and I would use something like main WP that I can be notified on a daily basis when there's an update, and I can choose to update, backup, do all those things. I wouldn't let WordPress deal or manage with that for me ever, until they've got a system where any update, it can be rolled back without a problem if they see a problem. And I don't think that's ever going to happen with WordPress. I would never use that kind of facility. So let me know your thoughts on that. And I can see pretty much everybody's saying they updated to 5.5, and good, because I think you should for security purposes to make sure you are updated. So yeah, so we've got, yep, disabled, auto updates off, disabled right now, disabled it all. Yes, if I know in hell no auto update. But this is my point, and I think this is where WordPress really are just shooting themselves in the foot, or Automatic, or whatever the company's called. They're rolling things out that people don't really want. You know, anybody with any sense, and I'm talking to people that work with WordPress, not someone that just has a blog and, you know, maybe doesn't think anything more of it than they just want to write some content. Automatic updates in a perfect world would be amazing. But on an open platform like WordPress, where there are hundreds of thousands of plugins, hundreds of thousands of themes, combinations that go into the billions, probably, if not beyond that, how can you possibly have automatic updates and expect people to just go, please update all my plugins and themes as soon as something new comes out? That's an amazing idea. I love it. Please do it for me. I never have to think again, and my site's never going to be hacked. It's never going to go offline. It's not going to happen, really, is it? So let's take a look. Is it safe to use GPL, Elementor Pro, or Divi, or any other premium plugins? Am I assuming you're talking about the sort of websites that are out there that are allowing you to pay like a monthly membership or pay peanuts for a license? I say a license for these different tools. If that's the case, rest out your own moral compass. I know for me, it would probably save me an absolute ton of money when I want to test plugins and themes out. But I like to support the developers, if I'm honest. So if that's what you're talking about, then personally, from a legal point of view, I believe, and I'm not legal in any way, there's nothing wrong with that because it is GPL, so it is perfectly legal to do that. It comes down to whether your moral compass says that you're happy to do that, and whether you feel like it's taking money away from the developers through a loophole in what GPL basically is, and the fact that WordPress forces developers to use GPL if they want to create plugins and so on for their platform. That's my understanding anyway, but you know, that would be my takeaway from it. Okay. So Carl, am I right in saying that this is, yeah, I did. That's the one I just answered. So hopefully I've answered that question. And if I've understood it wrong, please let me know, and I'll try to tag me into it, so it flashes up on my screen and shows me you've tagged me into it. Okay, so what else do we have? Let's have a little look. Joanna, WordPress live backers with Jetpack is a really good deal and useful. Where have we gone? Good deal and useful, but I feel like it's so heavy, but there isn't a better option. How do you feel about live backups? I think live backups are very, very useful. I think it's something that you really should have as part of your website, especially if you work with clients. You know, you realistically want to have a backup process in place. But if I just say what my backup process is and how I've sort of got things set up, you know, you can kind of decide whether that's the same kind of thing for you. My hosting company, which I've sort of been with for 14, 15 years, UK-based company, great support. They do backups daily, weekly, and monthly. If I do any updates, then I've got WP Vivid Backup Pro and WP Reset, but WP Vivid Backup Pro, I've got that set up. So every time a plugin or theme is updated, it will automatically take a backup and then send that over to my Dropbox account. And it's only a backup of that plugin and any changes it makes. So if I need to roll it back, I can roll back just that plugin. So I can do all my plugins at once if I want to, or I can just roll out one at a time. And if I find something goes wrong, I can just push those back and get them back to where it was prior to making that update. For me, that's the way I prefer to go about it. I really don't like Jetpack. I think it's incredibly heavyweight. I don't really think it does a lot of things that most users would want. And the problem is there's so many things sort of shoehorned into it. I'm going back from something I've used years ago, so it might have changed since then. But there's so many features in there, excuse me, that if you only want to use one, that's a lot of things you're going to put onto your site that you just want to use for one thing. So I would say there's better backup options out there. There are tons of different services and plugins that will do a good job. For me, that one is the one that I like, and it works really, really well for me. So maybe take a look at something like that, Joanne, and see if that's something that you think would be better for you. Okay, what else do we have? Right. Many times I've seen that WP Vivid backup free version is not taking complete backups on my site. Many times it'll take 3 to 4 pages only. Am I doing something wrong? I don't think you're doing something wrong. No, I mean, without seeing your setup. But what I would say is that if you are having a problem, reach out to their support, because in my dealings with the people that are behind WP Vivid Backup Pro, the free and the pro version, they've been really, really helpful in different things where I've sort of made suggestions to them and just talked about different things. And this is going back to way, way, way back where the channel was a lot smaller. So it's not like I had any real influence on anything they would want to do. So if you are having problems, check it out with them. Maybe test out trying to push it over to a different location, because you may just find that if you send it to Dropbox, there could be some kind of issue between the two of those. Maybe try doing a local backup. It's one of the options you have, whether it's sent it remotely or locally, and just test a few things out. Like I say, it's one of those things that I don't know the software that well to be able to fault find it. And I can't say that there's anything obvious that it sounds like you could be doing. But reach out to their technical support, tell them what you're doing, tell them the problem you're having. But before you do that, just test a few different variations out to see if you can find the potential problem for it. That's what I would suggest doing. Fault finding is always a good thing to do, first of all. Okay, what do I think of Updraft Plus? Again, a great service. It's not one that I've used myself in any real way, but I don't see anything wrong with it. It's got a good reputation. If that works for you, the price is right for you, and it has the features you want, I don't think you could go far wrong with it. It's just making sure you have that backup facility in place. So if the worst happens, you've got the ability to get things back online as quick as possible. That's what I would say. Okay, no problem with Joanna. So if you've got your Joanna. Okay, let's take a little look. We'll do one more question, and then we'll take a look at the next thing I want to talk about. What we got? WP Feedback is awesome. Support is very responsive. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's like, from my experience, they have been very, very good in any kind of dealings I've had with them. You know, most of the content that I've created is off my own back. There's no sponsorship involved in what they've done. They've sponsored earlier videos, but as always, as you know, if you watch my channel, I don't tell you about the plugin and say, go and buy it. I just tell you what it does, show you what it does, and then you take your choice. If it's something I've done off my own back and I use it myself, which I do, and I paid for it myself as well, so I've got the lifetime deal with them. If I think it's a good plugin, I'll tell you it's a good plugin, but I will never tell you that in a sponsored video. I'll only ever tell you that off my own back if it's a plugin that I've purchased and I think is good. Anyway, okay, so let's take a look at the next thing I want to cover. And let me just quickly go over it. And we're going to jump into this one. Okay, so let me just swap my screens over. My real-world impression of Elementor 3. Now, this is taking all those things to do with the updating issues and all those kinds of things out of the equation. This is just my experience where I built a site from scratch yesterday, twice, to show how to build a site. Like I say, this is a full tutorial on it. I really do like it now. Well, my first impressions when I sort of took a look at the beta version, I was a little bit sort of, yeah, it's okay. You know, it's not a bad update. There's nothing that really sort of sets the world on fire. And I didn't think the global styles and the theme styles, or the theme kit, or whatever it's called, I can never get the name right, didn't think that was potentially, you know, groundbreaking. They were catching up with what other sort of page builders were doing. But having used it yesterday and the day before with real conviction and setting it up with a reason to do it, as if I'm actually working with a client's website, it does kind of fall in and make a lot more sense now. So if you haven't used it and you've got the opportunity, you know, you have a domain or testing location or something you can set it up and try it out, do, because it does feel a lot more cohesive now than it did when I was beta testing it, where I've got a real reason to actually get stuck in and use it. So I would say that for me personally, it's actually quite a good update, and I think they're definitely going in the right direction. I'm hoping there's still lots of things they can do with global styles, theme styles, all those kinds of things, alongside the templates and so on. Fingers crossed, it will get better and better. But my impression of it now has changed, where I've used it with a real-world use case in mind. And I think that's kind of where you'll start to see beta test is all well and good, but you're just playing around with something. You don't want to put too much time and effort into it, because obviously if it doesn't work properly, you wasted a lot of time. On the release version, doing the tutorial, give me a reason to spend a lot more time with it. So I quite like it. I think it's a step in the right direction. And as long as they focus on these kinds of things and don't keep on bringing out pointless half-baked widgets or just widgets for the sake of widgets, then I think they would be doing a good thing. Focus on getting the core of this absolutely bang on, and then focus on taking a look at widgets and add-ons and things. Maybe even split the things into two. They've got an open API, so why don't they develop their own separate plugin that allows them to plug into it in the same way that third-party developers are doing? That way you can have the core of Elementor and Elementor Pro, and then you can have the extra bits and pieces with the extra functions and all the widgets and things that you can turn on and off. Maybe that's something that would be a good idea. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to murder this name, so I do apologize. Lithabo, thank you very much for the super chat. That's very much appreciated. Your support is fantastic. Thank you very much. I apologize if I murdered your name. Okay, so let's take a little look at a couple of other comments then. What have we got? Already on version 3.03. Well, fair play, they pushed that one out at the time that we were talking about it on the live stream. So again, good to see that they are pushing out these updates quickly. As you know, more people are coming across issues, more updates are going to come out. And again, this is the reason why I said earlier on in this video, never, ever, ever update to a 0.0 release. 3.0, never. 3.01, probably still wouldn't. 3.02, 3, you know, you're getting those bug fixes pushed out. You should have less of a headache. Wait. It's always exciting to get stuck in there and want to see all the new toys and start to play with all those things, but you're just going to have a lot of headaches by doing that. Anyway, so that's it. What do I think about the Oxygen Builder? I think we covered this in the previous live stream, but I'll quickly say I think it's an interesting builder. I tested it out on version 1. I did some sponsored content on there, and I did some on version 2, and I think it's still on version 2. I might have gone to version 3. I don't know. It's good. It's got a lot of potential. I think what's really going for it, and what a lot of people are sort of jumping over to it for, is the speed side of things, because it is a lot more lightweight in a lot of cases to the traditional page builders, because it doesn't work in the same way as page builders. It reminds me a lot of when I used to work with Dreamweaver back in the day. You know, if you're a code-orientated kind of individual and you're used to working on code level and, you know, dependencies and all those kinds of things, then I think Oxygen could be a natural progression for you. You know, it's something that I do mean to go and take a look at, but then I only got so many hours in the day, and it just takes so much time to sit down and learn a completely new platform to create content, to see if it's something I want to create content on, to see if there's an audience there for it, to be honest. So I'll never say that I won't go back and take a look at it in a bit more detail, but right now it's not something that's on the cards just yet. So, excuse me, I need another drink because my voice is going again. How to choose the perfect color scheme for any website. Do a search on my channel for You Suck at Design, and there's a couple of other ones on there for different design tutorials. And on there, I give you some tips and tricks on how to get better at color combinations, font combinations, to make sure that when you're creating designs, they look more pro, and they're quite useful little tools. Most of them are completely free. So check out that, do a little search on my channel for design tutorials, and you should find some information on there to help you get better color combinations. Okay, what is this super chat? It's basically where someone donates money towards the channel, towards the chat. So you basically pay a small amount of money, whatever you kind of want to do. Imagine like a tip jar, and that's what it is. And then it pops up. You can probably see it's in bright orange, which is the color scheme for this. And that just means that it highlights it so I can see it and everyone else can see that they've actually, you know, tipped, created a sort of super chat. Hope that makes sense. Okay. And love back to India. Think of Twitch bits, same thing. Oh, okay, fair enough. Okay, so what's the next thing I want to talk about? Let's just go over and take a look. Okay, so this is something now that's totally separate to Elementor. I think, excuse me, we've discussed Elementor a lot. I want to do something now. I want to swap over to something completely different. And this is about your designs. And you're going to see in the next sort of video that comes out, or one of the next videos that comes out, which is the complete net site build. This is a tool that I purchased from AppSumo that helps you create more focused designs. And I'll be doing a video dedicated to this because I think it's something that can be incredibly useful if you work with landing pages, marketing and promotion, e-commerce, or you just want to build better websites, or if you have a client that says, I want my design to look this way, and you can turn around and say, but if your design looks that way, it will get no real interaction. But if you do the design my way, we'll get a better response rate from it. More people will interact with it. We'll have a better chance of making you money, getting you new clients, whatever it is. This is a little tool that I think is really, really useful for doing just that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly just go over to the plugin. First of all, I'm going to go to AppSumo just so I can show you what it is. You don't have to buy this. You don't have to do anything with it. I just think it's quite cool. So there's no sales pitch here. Take it for what it is. And if you think it's something you'd like to take a look at, you can follow the link that'll be in the description of this, or check out the other videos that'll be up online in a couple of days. But it's called Attention Insight. And what it does is it uses AI to analyze your designs. And like I say, this could be website designs, it could be landing page designs, it could be a multitude of different designs, even marketing promotions. So if you're working with clients to create adverts and banners and things like that, then this allows you to test and refine your designs to get, hopefully, the best end result that does the best conversion for you. It starts at like $60, and it gives you like 100 designs you can check out per month, I believe it is. And it goes up from there. But what it does, and if I just open it up, I've already done a couple of examples. And what this does is it creates this sort of heat map. So let's just take an example of part of the redesign for the WP site. So if I just open this example up, we've got a couple of seconds to load in because my laptop, for some reason, isn't particularly that quick at the moment. So what it's going to do is it's going to give us a couple of things. It's going to give us a heat map, and it's going to give us a clarity score. Now, the heat map is based upon where your eye is drawn on that particular portion of the page. So this is above the fold, the first thing that people are going to see. So we can see where the eye is going to fall. The red are the hot spots. Anything that's blue probably isn't going to get any attention. So when you're creating a design, it can be quite difficult to create something that has a simple call to action, a simple message that means you can focus the user's attention on the things that you want to draw their attention to. So that's what the heat map does. And then we've got the percentage of attention. And you can see we've got these boxes drawn around there with this number underneath. So you can see that the get more from WordPress is going to grab probably about 33% of the attention, the subheading a little less. If that's what you want to draw attention to, absolutely bang on. If it's not, then you need to refocus your design kind of thing. So then on the right-hand side, we've got a clarity score, which if we mouse over that, the clarity score describes how clear the interface is for the end user. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. It's like, if you look at something like this, is it clear and simple? Is there a clear message? Yes, no, whatever. And then the Alexa site rank, that's going to compare this portion of the page, this advert, this whatever it is, to, I think, 170 different types of pages, depending on what you've actually created, whether it's a landing page, site, whatever kind of thing. So this is quite cool. Like I say, as you go through then the different portions of your page, you can see, you can check your clarity score out. You can see what's going to draw people's attention. And if it's not what you want, you can draw their attention by adjusting your design. Now, this is quite cool. And I do like this, but there's also another thing. You can actually do a comparison. I haven't done this. I've got nothing inside there yet. But what you can do with a comparison is you can have up to 30 different comparisons. In other words, 30 different designs. And then you can compare them against each other to see which are the best. Now, this is just a demo that has 2 images. So if we just open that up and take a look, what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to take a look at the designs that have been used and compare them to each other, which, like I say, I think is really useful. And then you can say, well, which one is going to potentially come back with the best results? And then you can refine your design from it. And like I say, this is not specific to web pages. This could be done on advertising. It can be done on mobile devices as well. So you can check your site out on a mobile and compare it to what it would look like on your desktop. All pretty cool. I just wanted to draw your attention to that, pardon the attention insight thing there, because I think if you are designing to make money or you're designing for clients, this could be one of those things that is great to have in the back pocket for yourself when you're creating a design, but also for your client if they come along and they say, well, we don't like what you've done there. We think there's better ways of doing it. Well, you can say, well, look, yeah, we can do it your way, but look how the attention drops off by using that compared to the design that I'm putting together, where the attention rate is much, much higher. So just a cool design tool, just something that I think is worth checking out. If you think it's useful, let me know. If it's something you think you would find it useful in your business for yourself or for your clients. Okay, so Yassine, I can see you found out the super chat. Thank you very much. That's very much appreciated. Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover. I'm going to spend the next sort of 10 minutes taking a look at what we have in the comments section and just seeing what you guys have to say about different things. Okay, what have we got? So what do I think of Divi? Do I really have to answer that question? I'm just joking. I don't think there's anything wrong with Divi. I think Divi has its place. I think Divi can do a lot of really good things. And I think there are certain things that Divi does better than Elementor. There are certain things that probably Beaver Builder do better than all of them. They all have their place. It's what you get used to. For me, I could never really get on that well with Divi. I came from Visual Composer, which if anyone ever used Visual Composer, and again, let me know in that chat if you ever had the pleasure of using Visual Composer, you'll probably know that it was very difficult because you were working blind. So when Elementor came out and you had the ability to see exactly what you were designing, that was like a step up. They made the whole process a lot better. And the fact that Elementor was so much quicker than Visual Composer. Divi been around quite some time prior to, Elementor. And I think it was doing a good job. But I think it became a victim of its own success in a lot of ways and become a little too bloated and a little too slow. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. As long as you've got a decent server and you don't sort of pack it with all the different kinds of animations, all the things that would slow it down. I've got no problem with Divi. I've done some content on it. It just wouldn't be my personal choice for a page builder. I do like Elementor, and I also really do like Brizy and Brizy Pro, and also Brizy Cloud, which I really do like. So that's my answer. That's what I think of Divi. Okay, so what else do we have then? Let's have a little look. Is there a way from email unless using email marketing solutions for actions after submit to send confirmation email? I'm a little lost on that one, sorry. Unless that's something to do with something else and I've missed out on that, so I don't know. Hi, Paul. You said you'd release a tutorial video on Client Portal in which you'd use the repeater field to each project. When will this become available? Yeah, that is still in the pipeline, but there was a lot of problems with the way that I wanted to approach it. So I'll probably take certain aspects of that away and maybe look at putting something else together, but it didn't really go the way I wanted it to. And I think I answered Carl's question a couple of weeks back when we talked about some of the deep dive videos. If I quickly explain to you how a deep dive works prior to you seeing anything, hopefully it'll sort of explain why I talk about some things, and I might put some stuff up on like the WP Crew Facebook group. They don't always come to fruition. It generally takes me a couple of weeks to go from an idea through prototyping, through testing, through finding all the plugins to get to the point where I can see if something, the proof of concept works. And I just tended to find that with that particular one that you're talking about, the proof of concept was about 80% there, but I'd spent what I considered enough time on it that to spend a lot more time to find that last 20%, I don't necessarily think would have been worth it. But I think certain aspects of that, what I've learned in there, will be taken away and maybe integrated into something else. So there will be some form of that coming in the future, but right now I don't know what it's going to take, what form it's going to take. But I am concentrating over the next couple of weeks of doing a lot more of the deep dive tutorials, the bigger, longer format tutorials, because I think I've kind of burnt myself out a little bit over the last 4 or 5 months that we've had this global issue going on. And it means that when you're doing five pieces of content a week and working with clients' content, it made the whole process of creating more deep dive videos just a little bit too daunting. So I am going to concentrate on some more on that. But I say I don't know exactly what's going to happen just yet with it. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, Paul Whittle, central management of WordPress sites. I'm trying a couple of different solutions, and I wondered what your preferred was. What you preferred with someone who has a lot of experience in managing and maintaining WP sites. I created a video on this a little while back that kind of went over what my particular content stack is for dealing with this. And it's like main WP. I know a lot of people sort of manage WP, and there's nothing wrong with managed WP. It is a good service. It just depends whether you want to pay for each of the different things that you want. For me, because I have WP Vivid Backup Pro and I have WP Reset, they cover most of the bases of what you would need inside a tool like Managed WP. So I didn't really see the need to pay Managed WP to do what I could do with these lifetime deals that I already have. So that's my stack. That's what I use. It's basically WP Reset, WP Vivid Backup Pro, main WP, and also the server that most of my client sites reside on give me daily, weekly, monthly backup. So that's what I tend to use. Will I use that forevermore? Probably not. And the new one that I've just grabbed, which I did a video on a couple of days ago, which I can't remember off the top of my head, Better Insights. That's it, Better Insights. That was a good deal that I thought for uptime monitoring that doesn't rely upon using like main WP, and you can get SMS, phone calls, and emails. That's not a lifetime deal, and I think that was something like, I want to say about $60 for 100 sites with 30-second monitoring, which is pretty cool. So I grabbed that. I've also got that, but that's not integrated into main WP at the moment. They are looking for integrations there, but it does work on its own as a standalone, and it complements what I do with main WP. So that's my stack that I use for my backup process and what I tend to sort of work with. So I hope that answers your question, Paul. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, let's take a little look. Great stream, great channel. Got to fly. Take care. See you, Kate. Hope everything's okay, and I'll catch up with you later in the week or next week. Okay. Hi, Paul. You did an overview video about Jet Engine Profile Builder. Are you considering doing a deep dive in this in the future? Probably. It's one of those things that if you see my videos on WP Front End Forms Pro and the free version, and also I think it was PAFE, you'll see that definitely ACF Front End Forms Pro, that was definitely a lot quicker and easier to work with when you wanted to create those forms. You get your front end sort of form thing set up within a matter of minutes. I just found that the way that Jet Engine was doing it was very, very time consuming just to set those things up, especially if you had a lot more comprehensive Jet Engine forms to fill out. So I kind of did that overview, didn't really love it, but I will be going back at some point to do a deeper dive into that. But I tend to let, like, whenever Crockablock bring out a new feature, a new sort of interim revision, excuse me, I tend to find that they need a couple of revisions from there before they streamline it and they refine it. So I kind of left that lie just to let that do that kind of process that I would say they generally tend to do. So I will go back and take a look at it. I don't know when, but there will probably be a deep dive that'll create something like that sort of front-end dashboard in a lot more detail, but using Jet Engine as opposed to ACF, which I've done in the past. So hopefully that does answer that question, and hopefully, you know, that kind of gives you some insight into what we're going to do with that. Okay. One more thing I want to sort of say before we wrap this up, because I can't believe it's been an hour again. These live streams just fly by. It's insane. I've been asked a couple of times after the last live stream about critiquing your website designs. Now, I'm in two minds about this kind of thing, but I wanted to throw it out to you to see if this is something you'd like me to do as part of the live stream. You know, maybe take 10 minutes as a segment in the entire live stream, or take a look at one design that's been submitted for that live stream and give you my constructive feedback on it. If this is something you think would be useful, whether you're watching it now, leave it in the live chat, or if you're watching this on replay, drop it in the comment section below. If you would, then I'll set up a dedicated email, excuse me, dedicated email and some way for you to sort of drop in the links to that, and we can take a look at doing something like that in the future. So let me know if that'd be interesting to you. Excuse me for drinking, but my throat is incredibly dry because it's incredibly hot in here. Okay. Paul Whittle, thanks for answering your question. I got main WP through your video, and really good to know. My pleasure. I'm glad that, but, you know, test these other ones out. You know, don't ever feel like anything that I say that I put out there, I say is a good way of working, works for me. Might not work for the next person. So try some of the other options out. See what you think of them. You know, Main WP, I used Main WP for quite some time, but I just felt it was one of those things that was like a honeypot into have this little bit free, but most of the things you're going to want to do if you're working with clients, you've got to pay for. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's their business model and it's working for them, then that's nothing wrong with it in the slightest. For me, I couldn't then go and charge more and more to my clients to do things that, you know, backups and stuff like that. So I just felt like once you start to roll all these things together, it can get quite expensive quite quickly. So I just look for other solutions to it. And like I say, using a site like AppSumo, they come up with different deals and things that are quite useful. WP Reset is one of the best ones. You know that. I've commented and done videos on that to say how good that plugin actually is. But keep an eye on a site like AppSumo. Also, another one is SaaS Mantra. I am going to do a couple of videos on different tools that I think you would find useful that I know I've purchased myself specifically for my use case. So I will be doing some content on those kinds of things. So keep an eye on the channel if those things interest you. But always keep an eye on there because it is useful. You can pick up things and replace services and tools you may be using and paying for with, you know, other tools that you have a lifetime deal, and then just ultimately save yourself money, which you could then pass on to the client, or you could just make more money off your client if they're already paying you for these services. Just another way of looking at it. Okay. Please read, if Jet Engine work alongside with Oxygen Builder, what is your point of view? I don't see it happening. I really don't, because I think when it comes to Crockablock, I think they're focusing their attention on Elementor and pushing more into Gutenberg, because Gutenberg is most definitely going to be, you know, the option, whether we like it or not, in a year or two's time when they bring out the sort of stage 2, 3, and 4, where you can build the entire themes and all those kinds of things. Lots of people are going to start to adopt Gutenberg, whether you like it or not, like I say, and that's going to become an integrated part into it. So I can't blame Crockablock for doing that. I think they're doing the right thing for them. So I can't see them working with Oxygen at this point in time. But as I always say, you can never say never. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So I don't see it right now, but maybe in the future, there could be something. I don't know. Okay. Will G, thanks for answering my question about the profile builder. I look forward to seeing the video in the future. All the best from Spain. My pleasure. That's from you, for to answer as many questions as I possibly can. Okay, I'm going to do a couple more questions because we've already gone over the 1 hour mark, and then we're going to call this one to an end. So what else do we have? Okay, Carl, yes, of course, fully interested in a critique. And Steve Pro, good evening. I didn't see you sneak in there, Steve, so good to see you here. Okay, well, if anyone's not a member of the WP Crew Facebook group, go and become a member, because I post things in there every single day. So we get new ideas and you want to sort of know what's going on, and new live streams and things are coming out, that's the best place to find out. And if you want to interact with me, that's also probably the best place to hang out. And there's also some amazingly wonderful people over there that are incredibly helpful. It's a really nice place to be. So do a search on Facebook for WP Crew, spelled C-R-U-E, and join the group. Become part of the crew. Okay, so final question from Paul Whittle. I'm going to charge you for this, Paul. I tell you, I'm really going to start charging you for this. I feel like I'm a therapist tonight. Okay, so have you ever done any videos on securing WordPress, as in a dedicated security plugins? I did one a while ago where I used iTheme security. It didn't get a huge amount of traffic, so I never really went back and did another one on it. But I've been using iTheme security on sites for years. And I know there's other ones out there, other options out there, and there's some great ones out there. That's the one that I've got used to. It's the one I can set up in a couple of minutes. And touch wood, it's always been fine for me. So do a search for, I think it's like just do a search on the channel for hackers or hacking or hacked, because it was something like, you know, don't get your website hacked or don't get WordPress hacked or something like that. And you'll find the video. It's a little bit dated now and the interface has changed, but most of the settings are pretty much the same. They might have just moved a little bit, but should give you a good sort of an introduction to what that plugin does and how it works. Okay, my pleasure, Steve. Thanks for coming into the stream. Okay, from the Oxygen Facebook group, there are many Elementor people crossing the line. There are, I totally agree with you. There are a lot of people that are moving over to Oxygen. And I think a part of that is, and I could be wrong, I mean, again, you let me know. I think a part of that is because I don't think everybody feels like their voice is being heard when it comes to Elementor. You know, you've only got to take a look at something like breakpoints. And that's been being asked for years and years and years. And it still hasn't arrived. You know, if you're not going to listen to your buyers, then, you know, people are going to get fed up and they're going to jump ship. And also, it is getting more and more expansive and potentially more and more bloated. So you can't blame people for getting fed up and looking for alternatives if they're not being heard, or they're just getting frustrated with the features that they want not being included. You know, so that would be my take on it. But I could be talking absolute rubbish. Okay, so we're going to have, Paul Whittle, if you could just drop your address details in, I'll set an account up for you and I'll send the invoice over later on today. Okay, how many Facebook groups do I have? Just the one. Name of your Facebook group, Paul. WP Crew. Let me just do a little quick put the screen on there, and I'll just actually, if you go to wptuts.co.uk/Facebook, if I'm not mistaken, that should take you straight to the Facebook group. So that will probably make it easier. So wptuts.co.uk/Facebook. Yeah, that'll take you over to it. So that'll take you straight over to it without any problems whatsoever. So if you are having a problem finding it, just do that. Okay. Okay. We're going to have one more question, and I'm going to find something now. I'm going to search through this very long list of comments and questions and everything else. Okay, so Western Mass Junction. Okay, ACF front end is fantastic. I put together a full front end system for clients. Shabty is an incredibly responsive dev tool. I agree on all those points, and keep an eye out because there's something new coming on the channel very soon for Shabty to do with those plugins. So I'm saying no more than that. Just know it. Okay, so let's wrap this up. The critique. Let's give it a try. We'll do, these live streams are going to be every 2 weeks. So I'll post up on there when the next one is due to come out. It'll be on the Facebook group, it'll be on Twitter and all those kinds of things. If you are interested in having your designs critiqued, and like I said, I'm not going to go in there, and I'm not the best designer in the world, but what I will do is I'll take a look at it from a constructive point of view, see what I think of it, maybe even run it through something like that Attention Insight to see what comes back on there. And then we can talk about things, areas that I think could be improved, areas I think are doing really, really well. And hopefully the designs will come in and they'll be that good that I won't have anything to say about them at all other than positive praise. But yeah, let's give that a try. Like I said, I'd love to take a look at what you were doing anyway. You know, I'd love to see what kind of creations you come up with, not from the tutorials that I put together, but just in general, because it's great to see how many talented designers there are out there. I'd love to see your work. So that'd be cool. I think that's a really good thing to do. Okay, what have we got? We're going to do one more question. I keep saying one more every time. We're already almost 10 minutes over. So we'll do this one more question. Say, what are your thoughts on Brizzy Cloud? This is Rich Toy Media website design. I think it's brilliant. I've done a couple of videos on it recently, and I've got some more that I want to do because I think if you want to either have a really cost-effective way of creating landing pages, what an amazing way. I mean, was it $99 for unlimited sites per year with SSL included, with CDN included, and all those kinds of useful things. If you want to host it with them, they're bringing out the blogging feature, should be out hopefully this year. I'm hoping at some future point. E-commerce, that's a really, really good deal. That's really something that you should be looking into. But even if you just want to use it for landing pages, compare that to some landing pages services, and this is peanuts. If you've got paying clients, you could have one paying client and they could easily pay for an entire year's worth of Brizzy Cloud. Yes, it's still got things that it needs to be added to it. Yes, it's still got the limitations of where we are with Brizzy as a page builder at this point in time. But the potential, for me, I think is absolutely massive. I think they go in a really exciting direction. So if you haven't checked out Brizzy Cloud, take a look at it, have a look and see what it offers, because I think it's a brilliant service. If you want to see a little bit more about how to use it, do a little search on my channel for Brizzy Cloud, and you should find a couple of videos where I've used that in different purposes. And you can see how I would use it for various different things and some of the real benefits. Even if you don't want to pay a single penny for it, you can still benefit from quite a few of the really useful features the Brizzy Cloud offers. I sound like an advert. Okay, so that's it. We're going to call it a day at this point. But what I want to do first of all is just say a massive thank you for taking the time out of your day, whether that's the morning, the afternoon, or the evening, or the middle of the night for some people, to get involved in this second live stream. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've felt you're part of the whole stream, the whole chat, all those kinds of cool things. Be sure to join me in the next one in 2 weeks' time, or permitting, and make sure you sign up to the Facebook group as well. Again, wptets.co.uk/Facebook, and you'll be taken straight over to it. I'll stick around in the chat for another 10-15 minutes so we can carry on the conversation, but I'm going to call the live stream to an end there and just say thank you very much, and good evening, good afternoon, good day, whatever it is going to be. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.